Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good day I bid to Madam and my fellow brothers and sisters. My name is Nur Shahmina binti Zainal Abidin, and these are my group mates for today's presentation.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Adeline Imani binti Imran Ramzi and my metric number is 1919570.
And my name is Siti Nur Ashikin.
So today, the three of us will be presenting on our case review entitled Zambri bin Idrus and Zaiti Akhtar binti Omar. Alright, before we embark our presentation for today, if you can see these movies which are appearing on your slides, the ones on the left side are actually from the movie Ay Ayat Cinta, and the one on the right side are actually from the movie Syurga Yang Tak Dirindukan. And if you can recall, these two movies are actually about polygamous marriage, and this is the scope of our presentation for today, which is the polygamous marriage. So this is our presentation outline, basically the flow of our presentation for today. First and foremost, we have the introduction as the thing that I'm doing as of now, and then we move on to the brief facts of the case, legal issues of the case, arguments from both parties, ratio decidendi, and last but not least will be the conclusion for today's presentation.
Next is the brief facts of the case. In this case, the plaintiff and the defendants were married on 25th April 1998 at Bukit Katil, Melaka, and they have 4 children. That is 3 daughters and a son, which their names are Zulaika, Zahira, Zalifa, and Zulhilmi. However, the 4th children, who is Zulhilmi, have suffered a autism illness that caused him to have a delayed speech problem. As a result from his illness, he need to be treated and a lot of attention need to be given to him. Next, on 16 March 2016, the plaintiff made an application for practicing polygamy under Section 23, Clause 4 of the Islamic Family Law Enactment of Selangor 2003. After successfully filed a suit to the defendant, on 11 April 2016, the defendant had filed a statement of defense and filed a counterclaim based on Section 23, Clause 10 of the Islamic Family Law Enactment of Selangor 2003. However, the plaintiff does not want to counterclaim the statement of defense made by the defendant and wanted to proceed with a trial. In the trial, the parties have provided evidence through affidavits and have not brought any witnesses.
So, there are 2 main legal issues in this case. Firstly, it is whether the Sharia court has the jurisdiction to attend the trial. And the second one, which is actually the main issue, is whether the plaintiff meets all the criteria of subsection 23, clause 5, paragraph A until D in the Islamic Family Law Enactment 2003. The first criteria is actually whether the suggested marriage is necessary, and next is whether the plaintiff can afford to provide maintenance for current dependents and future wife altogether. And the third one is whether the plaintiff can provide equal treatment to both current and future wife. Lastly, whether this polygamous marriage will cause persecution to the current wife.
Next is the claims from both parties. In this case, in order for the plaintiff to support his application for practicing polygamy, he had provided 4 reasons to support his application. So the first one is that the parties agreed to give an opportunity to the third party, which is the future wife, to together ease the burden in taking care of her. The second one is plaintiff was able in terms of financial liability. The third one is plaintiff could act fair towards the current wife and the future wife. And the last one is the The plaintiff alleged that the proposed marriage would not bring harm or tarnish the defendant's reputation. However, the defendant had denied all the reasons provided by the plaintiff and had filed a counterclaim towards him. And this counterclaim is made based on this subsection 23 clause 10 of the Islamic Family Law Enactment of Selangor 2003. So in the counterclaim, the court ordered plaintiff to pay for several maintenance such as the defendant's personal allowance, the monthly maintenance and extra maintenance and so on. So this is another list of things that need to be done by the plaintiff towards the defendant, such as for the overnight, or the future wife is not allowed to live with defendant in a same house. Moving on to the arguments from both parties as to answer the legal question raised in this case. I'll be explaining the plaintiff's argument and my friends will be explaining the defendant's argument. So in order for someone to practice polygamy, he must fulfill a requirements stated in the provisions of subsection 23 clause 5 of A, B, C, and D of the Islamic Family Law Enactment of Selangor 2003. So the first aspect is whether proposed marriage must and necessary. The second one is whether plaintiff is able to provide maintenance for both a current and future wife. The third one is whether plaintiff could provide fair treatment for both current and future wife. And the last requirement is whether polygamous marriage would bring harm to current wife. So this requirement will be the legal issues in this case. So the first issue is whether proposed marriage must and necessary. So in this case, the plaintiff alleged that the parties agreed to take care for the future wife, which is the third party, as they want to provide an opportunity to ease her burden. The next issue is whether plaintiff is able to provide maintenance for both a current and future wife. So the plaintiff alleged that he had a monthly income of 3,296 ringgit and have no side income. However, the plaintiff agreed to have a monthly deficit if his application to practice a polygamy was approved by the court. Apart from that, plaintiff also alleged that he had incidental income from the investment. However, he does not specifically mention what the investment was and how much the return would he get from the investment. Not only that, he not provide any evidence from witnesses or documentary evidence submitted by plaintiff to support his allegation. Apart from maintenance to the wife, the term for overnight, the plaintiff promised to allocate 3 nights for the defendant and 3 nights for the future wife. And he promised to provide a living allowance of 1,000 ringgit for the defendants, 1,200 ringgit for their children, and 1,000 ringgit for the future wife. Moving on to the next issue, which is the third issue, where the plaintiff could provide fair treatment for both current and future wife. So the plaintiff alleged that he could act fair for both of them. In this issue, the court does not discuss it extensively, so there's no claim from the plaintiff's part. So the court only clarified the meaning of justice in polygamy, where justice in polygamy only includes in terms of physical matters such as maintenance, turn for overnight, and so on. And for the issue of love, the court does not take into account as it is hard to see and it cannot be measured at all in the eyes of the law. And the last issue is whether this polygamous marriage will bring harm to the current wife. So, in this issue, the plaintiff alleged that this polygamous marriage will not bring harm to the defendant as all her needs were and would be met by him. So, in this issue, the court interpret the harm in the sense of harm here means the husband would perpetrate or injure or torture the wife in the form of verbal, physical, or mental abuse. And if it is happened to the wife, it will affect it especially on five basic human rights, which it is enshrined by the Islam, and that is religion, body, mind, dignity or decent, and property. So the alleged abuse here could be in the form of psychological and emotional, which involve the mental state of the defendant, sexual abuse, which involve the dignity and decent of the defendant, social abuse, and financial abuse, which involve the property. Next, we will move to the defendant's argument.
Also,
Alright, so moving on to the defendant's argument. The first issue is whether proposed marriage is a must and necessary. So defendant has stated that she is still able to provide treatments and fulfill all plaintiff's needs, and she has no problems at all to do so. And here, the plaintiff also failed to provide enough evidence to support his first statement. The defendant had never stated anything that amounts to her agreeing plaintiff's application, practicing polygamy, and neither she will ever reconcile and be fair towards plaintiff's future wife. And second argument for the second issue is whether the plaintiff is able to provide maintenance, which is nafaka, for current and future wives. The defendant denied plaintiff's financial ability to practice polygamy, and she stressed that plaintiff had been negligent in providing defendants and their children maintenance. The defendant had to support their family for daily needs, school necessities for their children, with extra expenses on the one sitting for major exams. One of them were sitting for PT3 and one of them were sitting for SPM. They both need tuitions and exercise books that are extra other than the other children that just in their regular school year without any major exams. And their last child, their youngest child, had delayed speech, so the youngest child required treatments, and the treatments needed financial support. So defendant also paid for everything, and defendant also stated that she was the one who covered the plaintiff's medical expenses for his gallstone surgery. So in this for the second issue, it is clear that the plaintiff is not able to provide maintenance for current and future wife, as per stated in their argument. Next is the third issue. I'm sorry, the fourth issue. Because the third issue are actually the court has no exact measure on how to like how to measure exactly. So there wasn't any discussion and any argument on that. So moving on to the fourth issue, whether polygamous marriage would bring harm to current wife. Here, defendant stated that the suggested marriage had wrecked her psychological well-being and damaged their children's focus on education. Defendant claimed that this proposal of polygamous marriage also ruined their marriage. I mean, the relationship in the marriage. And defendant had also had to face immense embarrassment to face their friends and family due to plaintiff's boasting around that he will have a second wife. That's it for the defendant's argument.
Alright, now let's move on to the ratio decidendi. So for the first issue on whether the Sharia court had the jurisdiction to tend the trial, so for the court to adjudicate this matter, the court has actually made references from a number of legislations. And the legislations that was referred by the court was quite a few. For example, the first one was Section 61, Subsection 3, Paragraph B, Paragraph 1 of the Administration of the Religion of Islam State of Selangor Enactment 2003. And the second legislation that was referred by the court was Section 4 and Section 23 of the Islamic Family Law State of Selangor 2003. So based from these two legislation, the court has held that they had the jurisdiction to listen to the dispute. Alright, let's move on to the second issue, in which whether plaintiff fulfills requirement as enumerated in Section 23, Subsection 5, Paragraph A to D of the Islamic Family Law State of Selangor Enactment 2003. So as we know, under the second issue, there are four aspects. So in regards with the first aspect, whether proposed marriage must and necessary. So the court had actually referred to Section 23, Subsection 5, Paragraph A of the Islamic Family Law State of Selangor Enactment 2003. So, under this provision, it was stated that the polygamous marriage proposed is considered must and necessary if and only if the existing wife suffers from sterility, physical infirmity and unfitness, loose shoes, or even insane. So, based from defendant's allegation, defendant actually can still provide sexual intimacy to the plaintiff, and on the other hand, plaintiff fails to provide evidence that defendant is sexually unfitness to give in to his sexual needs. So apart from that, defendant actually never agreed to take polygamous marriage into consideration and even to take care and ease the burden of the third party. So based from defendant's and plaintiff's allegation, the court has decided to reject the first claim brought up by the plaintiff, in which the court views that the polygamous marriage proposed is not a must and is not even a necessity. Next aspect under the second issue, in which whether husband is able to provide maintenance for both current and future wives. So here the court had referred to Section 23, Subsection 5, Paragraph B of the Islamic Family Law State of Selangor Enactment 2003. So under this provision, it was held that those who wish to contract polygamous marriage needs to have means to support his wives and children. So plaintiff's income was actually only 3,296 per month, and he had no any side income. But he said that he would be getting any more side income due to an investment that he will be making. However, the investment was unknown because he did not provide any details regarding on the investment. And apart from that, plaintiff also would suffer from deficit if this polygamy application was granted. So deficit here means that loss, deficiency in terms of plaintiff's salary. And on the other hand, on the part of the defendant strongly denied plaintiff's financial capabilities when plaintiff had neglected his duty to give nafkah. And this actually was supported by the defendant's allegation by stating that defendant, who had a gross income of 14,773 ringgit 55 cents, she was the one who had supported the whole family's financial condition alone by using her own salary, and she was actually making this allegation by providing documents which stated that she was doing so. So based on the plaintiff's allegation as well as the defendant's proof of evidence, the court had rejected the second claim brought upon by the plaintiff, in which the court views that the plaintiff is incapable of supporting his current and future wives. Moving on to the third aspect under the second issue, in which whether husband could provide fair treatment for both current and future wives. So here, the court had referred to Section 23, Subsection 5, Paragraph C of the Islamic Family Law State of Selangor Enactment 2003. So the court actually views the terms of fair treatment or justice in terms of physical aspects such as nafkah, daily needs, turn for overnights, etc. The reason why court didn't view this fair treatment in terms of matters pertaining to love or matters pertaining to affection is because these two things, affection and love, are something that is impossible to be measured. So based from this fact of the case, the court has rejected the third claim that was brought upon by the plaintiff, in which the court views that plaintiff cannot do justice and cannot provide fair treatment for both his current and future wives. Now, for the last aspect and the second issue in which whether polygamous marriage would bring harm to current wife. So here, the court had referred to Section 23, subsection 5, paragraph D of the Islamic Family Law State of Selangor Enactment 2003. So here, the harm or darar syar'i here actually refers to physical, emotional, and psychological abuse that could happen to the defendant and their children. So here, defendant has claimed that this proposed marriage had actually brought emotional distress to her and her children, because every time the topic of polygamous marriage was brought up, both defendant and plaintiff often argue, and because of this argument, their children cannot focus on their studies at school, even at home. So it definitely brought emotional distress to both defendant and her children. And on the other hand, defendant also claims that she needs to bear embarrassment when plaintiff keeps on publicizing his relationship and keeps on announcing to people that he will be contracting polygamous marriage. So it is as crystal clear that the court has decided to reject the fourth claim brought up by the plaintiff, which means that the polygamous marriage proposed by the plaintiff is something that will definitely bring harm not only to the wife but also to the children of the plaintiff and defendant.
As a conclusion, in order for a court to determine whether the application for polygamy to be approved, the husband must meet all the requirements listed down in the subsection 23, clause 5 of A, B, C, and D of Islamic Family Law Enactment of Selangor 2003. So in this case, based on the grounds provided by the plaintiff, the court satisfied that the plaintiff does not meet all the requirements listed down in the provision. Thus, the court rejected the plaintiff's claim for the application for polygamy. So I think that's all from our group. Thank you.